he was different by design. Captain Luther Blount envisioned travelers getting closer to a destination, with a zest for discovering the unusual, a passion for remaining cozily informal, and a flair for creating exceptional vessels. His legacy lives on. After 54 years of business, his patented designs and innovations continue to bring curious travelers as close as possible to adventure.
The Blount family came to Rhode Island a little before the turn of the century from Long Island, where they had been oyster men. They came to Rhode Island because of the pristine waters, a completely undeveloped shoreline of Narragansett Bay, and with a huge oyster population. Oysters were the industry of the town for at least 50, 60 years.
For Rhode Islanders, the Hurricane of '38 changed everything. Most of Rhode Island was in a state of devastation, including E.B. Blount & Sons Oyster Company. Their famous oyster beds were damaged beyond repair. For Luther Blount, a student at Wentworth College in Boston, and a young man with a head full of ideas, it offered an opportunity to try something new, pivoting his world from oysters to ships.
By 1946-47, the family oyster business was no longer. So this big piece of property, which is where the oyster house was located, was free. And so my dad said, hey, you know what, I really want to start my own business. I love boats. I like designing boats. And so he and my mother kind of picked up roots in Connecticut and moved back to Rhode Island, and subsequently moved right onto the property where my father started building boats.
After he built his first boat, the Rhodey Oyster, he put an ad in the Maritime Reporter, and he actually got another call for a boat like the Rhodey Oyster, but larger. And so that's kind of how we ended up going in the boat building direction, because he probably could have applied himself in many different directions, but it was boating. And one thing led to another, and he actually built some amazing, iconic boats and launched successful businesses due to some of the boats that he designed.
One of Blount's clients was Circle Line ferries that today still use Blount boats to ferry tourists around the Statue of Liberty. As Luther's business flourished, so too did his family, and his spirit for adventure crossed over into his personal life. With 5 children.
As a young child, I was watching boats built, from the time I was about 3 or 4.
I always used to tell everybody that, I was pretty much born on the water. We were constantly on vessels. We were sword fishing with my dad, going on trips with my father.
We all had a very extraordinary childhood. My father was a bit larger than life.
Luther and his wife, Mary Ellen, created their own kind of family vacations, loading the kids onto a family boat built by Luther and setting sail for the New England Islands, where sword fishing took center stage.
So our family vacations got to include not only our family members, but also friends of my parents. A lot of the friends wanted to go, and there wasn't enough room really for everybody. So my sister Julie and I kind of got left behind. The bottom line is, it got so popular, my father decided, wow, if this many people really are interested in this kind of cruising, which was very novel in that day and age, because all the cruising was done on the great big boats. You cruise with 3,000 people. He said, wow, maybe this is going to work.
The Blount children found themselves with summer jobs working as stews or deckhands. Luther's cruising vacations had become so popular that they had a waiting list, and the vision behind what would one day be called Blount Small Ship Adventures was born.
Truly, he developed the look of the boats, and then the ability of the boats to do, to go where the big ships can't in terms of the shallow draft, but also developing the pilot houses that can retract for the bridges, the low, air draft, and also for the bow landing that, allow the vessel to go up onto beaches.
I mean, what cruise line takes a boat apart to enable it to get under a low bridge and pump out the bottom of a boat so it sinks 3 inches to, make that journey?
When Luther passed away in 2006, he left a family and a fleet dedicated to the possible, and a legacy that still today influences decisions made. It's no surprise that 3 of Luther's daughters and the first passengers on his earliest vacation cruises now run different parts of the family business. In many ways, they'd been in training for these jobs their whole lives.
We were in it and knew it, and I think that's why we have always felt a part of it, and so I think it was sort of natural for us. We came of age in the time when women could begin to think of such things, and we knew we were capable, that we just sort of stepped up and said, yes, this is our legacy too.
And today, aboard a Blount ship's small adventure, you'll still find the legacy of Luther's work, a legacy built on taking travelers a little further, going where others cannot, helping them see a little more, and experiencing what getting away really means.
My dad, when he first started the business, it was all about the big boats and not the little boats. And he was just this little voice crying in the wilderness, seriously. Nobody. I mean, he went to a travel show with travel agents and they laughed him out of the show. They said, nobody's gonna want to do small ship cruising. Okay, so you fast forward to where we are today, and what are the big boats doing? Everybody wants to go to that intimate experience that you get on a small ship. And you know, now they're moving to what they call small vessels, which are like 250 pack instead of 3,000. So, you know, he was very in touch with and kind of ahead of his time in terms of what people were looking for.
Captain Luther H. Blount, a proud Warren, Rhode Island native with an indomitable will to build, invent, and explore. It's little wonder that Luther Blount's small ship cruise line reflected that same philosophy. Today, over 50 years later, Luther's daughters and a third generation of Blounts have joined both the cruise line and Blount boats. With a proud nod to our history, Blount's small ship adventures still stands as a healthy tribute to a man whose very vision added adventure to the cruising experience.